start recording. So, turn up the volume. I'm not sure why it's telling me to do that. Oh, maybe like this. Okay. All right. So what we want to do is we want to rename our AutoCAD file to the example problem that we're looking at. So I'm going to simply say file, save as, because I want to keep this kinematic start just like this so that I can pull it up again and it has everything that I need. So I'm going to call this example 1_2_1 because I already have an underscore. And now you're going to notice that at the top, we have now a new file. This way I'm not going over that start file, but it has these elements in it. So I can use these to create my kinematic diagram. Now let's go to our problem in the book, which is on page 7. Okay. And it starts in the middle of the page. And this example is asking us to draw the kinematic diagram for a pair of vice grips. Now, as we know, the first step in creating a kinematic diagram is to identify the frame. And in a hand tool like this, there's nothing that's bolted down or is going to be fixed. So we are going to assign it. So I happen to have a vice grips here that is similar to the diagram that we have. Not exact, but similar. And what we're going to do is we're going to take this handle that is on the top, and that is going to be what we assign to be fixed. So it's kind of like we're going to hold this at the top here and let everything else kind of hang down. Okay. So we're going to keep this top part in a stationary position. So we're going to call that our frame. And then these elements are going to be allowed to move relative to it. Does that make sense? Okay. So that means that this connection, if we look closely at our vice grips diagram, there's a connection here. This is going to be a frame connection, and this is going to be a frame connection. They happen to share the same handle, if you would, that top handle portion. But again, they can be two separate physical parts, but they're not moving. And that's why they're identified as the frame. So these two are going to be our frame. Then we're going to notice that if this is going to be this point right here is like that point right there, similar to, and then this point is like in the inside of the handle. We're not seeing where it's attached here, but that's where it would be. So those would be those two positions. Then you're going to notice that we have this bottom jaw is attached, and it's attached to the frame at this point, which is going to be right there. And then it is going to have another connection to the bottom handle right there, which is that point right there on my vice grip. Okay. So this element right here is going to be kind of like a little triangle, because this point we're going to be interested in how far apart that is or how close it's going to be. Okay. So that's going to be a special point of interest. All right. Then our next part is going to be that bottom handle, which is this right here. So as it's here, this is going to be that handle right there. And then the rod connecting back to our frame. Okay. In this case, we do have, an element that isn't a straight line, but in this case we do. So we're just going to show it as a straight line. All right. So let's peek to the end of this example to see what the kinematic diagram looks like. And this is what they came up with. So their A and their D are two frame elements, and those are the connection to this top here and over here. Okay, so frame and frame. Notice that they don't duplicate number one only in one position. It's just one link in our mechanism is the frame, and it's identified as number one. And anything that has that standard symbol, we know is not going to move, and it's part of the frame. So that's going to be our first link. Then you're going to notice that the jaw that's located right here, this is this part right here on our vice grips, okay? That they're calling number 3. This is where I probably would differ from them. I like to go from my frame to the first element here. That would be my number 2 to me, okay? Then you're going to notice that they call the handle number 2. So the handle is connected to that jaw on the bottom here, okay? And then it is going to go down to the end of the handle and then back up to the other connection. So it is a simple link. It connects between C and D here, but then it's a special point of interest is point Y. So in this case, they have it going up. So it's, you know, located kind of up there more than open. All right. And then lastly, there's going to be the connection with the link going back to the frame at point D, and they're calling that number 4. So what we're going to do here, first of all, before we go to AutoCAD, are there any questions on how they came up with what they have right here using the standard symbols that we had discussed in table 1.1? Yes. No, because remember, it doesn't, there's actually a connect, I know it's like hard to see. There's a connection in here as a joint. So you're going to notice that you can see it like through here. They're showing it as a pin connection. Yeah. And mine is underneath my handle. I can't see it, but it's,
So that slides.
but it slides based on this. Yeah. But that's there. Okay. Any other questions? All right. So now we just want to take that diagram and we're going to draw it in AutoCAD. Now you'll notice here also, they didn't give us dimensions. In chapter 1, they just want us to practice the process of creating kinematic diagrams in proportion to what we see, okay? In chapter 4, when we start looking at displacement and how things are going to move, when we have other elements move, we're going to have some added dimensions. But for right now, we're just getting used to creating these diagrams without worrying so much about distances. So I'm going to go back to AutoCAD over here. And I have my example 1, 2 called up as my file. And what I want to do is I want to position my elements here, and I'm not going to use all of them. This is not a sliding mechanism, so I'm not going to be using the slider. I'm just going to delete that. So I'm going to get rid of that slider because for this one, I won't need it. I will need it in the future. But then I have two frame elements. One is at A and one is at D. So I'm just going to move this just a little bit over here, and then I'm going to copy it. And I am going to, has to be up just a little bit up and to the left, right about there. Okay. So this is going to be my A and this is going to be my D. Now I know that this is a frame member, so I want to label the frame member. So I'm going to move 1 and its circle from the position that it's in right here to next to my frame member. Okay. I'm only going to label it once. This also tells me it's a frame, so its symbol tells me that it's stationary. Then what I'm going to do is I am going to move letter A to be there, and then letter D is going to be over here. Okay. And again, using the letters that are in that diagram on page 8. The next thing that I'm going to do is I'm going to change to the object layer, and I am going to draw what they have as link number 3, which is that lower jaw. So I'm going to grab my line command, and I am going to snap to the center of the circle for the joint that I have. Oopsie. And I'm going to put on my ortho because I think this is going, oh, no, it's not going straight down. I don't need it on. B is right about here. I think X is kind of up here, and then I'm going to go back. Okay. Now I'm going to copy this joint that I made earlier, the single joint by itself, and I'm going to go from its center to the intersection down here. Okay. And then I'm going to label this point down here is B. So I'm going to move B from here down to there. And then X is going to be a point of interest. So I'm going to move X to the endpoint there. Okay. Notice I did not put a joint symbol at X. That is just like the end of a point that I'm interested in. There is a connection to another link at A, and there is going to be another connection at B. So any questions so far? Oh, and then this is labeled as number 3. So I'm going to move 3 and its circle from where it's at to my lower, what we'll call my lower jaw. Questions so far? All right, now we're going to continue on. So if I go back underneath here, what I've done so far is this front portion. Now I'm going to create my handle. So I'm going to go straight over to from B to C, and then slightly up for Y, and then back to B. Y is just calling out like the end of that handle. So I'm going to do a line from the center. Make sure you grab the center here. And I'm just going to go horizontally to C, it looks like. Maybe right about there. And then I'm going to go slightly up to Y and then back to C, or I'm sorry, back to B. Okay. Now C, I'm going to move C. That's going to go down over here. And then there needs to be a joint where C is. So I'm going to copy that joint from its center to the endpoint there. And then they called this member number 2. So I'm going to move my 2 with a circle. And then also I'm going to move Y to the endpoint of that handle. Okay. The last link that I need to add is going to be link number 4. That's just going to be a straight line from the center at D to the center at C. There we go. And that is going to be link number 4. And that's, I can get rid of this last point. That should take care of all of the members and joints for the kinematic diagram. For example, 1, 2. So now to hand this in, you're going to create a screenshot. Okay. So, but what I want to make sure that I know is that I know what example it is. I need you to label this. So what you're going to do is you are going to do multi-line text, and you're just going to say example 1.2. And then left click outside of it. I'm going to reselect it. I'm going to put on the notes layer so it's official. And then now you're going to take a screenshot, including the example 1.2, so that when I see it on your submission, I know which one your diagram is for. So I'm going to do Windows Shift S, or you can use the snipping tool and just make sure, let's see, Windows Shift S. Do I have to drag? Maybe that's what I got to do. Yeah, I got to drag. Okay. And it snips that area. And then what you're going to do is you're going to open up a document. It can be Word, it can be Google Doc, and then you're going to insert that screenshot for the first example here. Okay. And then what you want to do is you want to save this as, let's see, Mod1a practice problems, because we have more that we're going to continue to do the next time that we're together. Okay. All right. So I'm going to ask, does anybody have any questions right now with the AutoCAD, with example 1.2, or how to add this to a document to kind of prepare it or stage it for uploading to the Dropbox later on. Okay. If we go back to Module 1, practice problems 1A, we've done example 1.1. That was the hand sketch that you did. You're going to have to take a picture or scan it and upload it to this Dropbox or this assignment. We just did example 1.2. And then we're going to still be doing 1.3, 1.4, and 1.9. Okay. Those three, though, involve, those last three involve doing the mobility calculations. So we're only going to go this far tonight. And then the next time that we're together, which is on Wednesday, we're going to talk about mobility, and we're going to continue to do some more kinematic diagrams. Okay. Now, what we've done tonight, you would be ready to get started on our assignment for 1A. So if we go down to assignment number 1, part 1, you're going to notice that there are 6 kinematic diagrams that we're going to be doing. Okay. 1-1, 1-3, 9, 10, 11, and 24. Kinematic diagrams for these. These are found at the end of the chapter, starting on page 25. So if we go to page 25, the first problem that we have here is 1-1. It says that it wants us to draw the kinematic diagram for the mechanism below. This is going to be the mechanism for opening the door on a heat treat furnace. So here is the door. It's going to go up and down, okay? And it's connected to a connecting rod and a handle. That handle rotates and is stationary at the frame right here. So you want to draw the simplified kinematic diagram for that mechanism. Notice you don't have any dimensions. You just want to make things proportional. Okay. So that's the first one. You would have what you need. You can get started on that this evening. The next one is going to be 1-3. This is a folding stadium chair. You would draw the diagram for this one. This would flip up and flip down. Okay. Again, no dimensions, just proportions as you see it here. The next one is going to be number 9. This is another toggle clamp, kind of similar to the one that we had looked at briefly in our lecture. That one's here. Number 10 is a children's digging toy. Okay. So this, maybe some of you have used this before in the playground. I want you to draw the kinematic diagram of that one. Number 11, the problem statement is at the bottom of the first column on page 26, but the illustration is at the top of the next column. So it's the reciprocating saw here. And then the last one, bless you, is on page 28. The problem statement is here, 124. But the actual sketch is the sewing machine up here at the top of the following column. Okay. Kinematic diagrams for these only. Okay. Just the kinematic diagrams. So, so that's where we're going to stop tonight. That's where we're going to stop tonight. I'm going to stop the recording.